Not long ago, a sitting American president walked through a round blue temple in the south of Beijing, one of the most powerful men on earth, getting the grand tour of a place built for the most powerful men of another world. 20 dynasties back. And I'd bet my saddle almost nobody watching understood what they were really looking at. Because it looks like a church. It isn't. There is no God being worshipped in there. Not the way you'd think. The Temple of Heaven was something stranger and a whole lot smarter. It was a machine built to do one job that every empire in history has failed at. Keep the man at the top honest. The most powerful human being in the known world walked into that temple once a year and got reminded in stone and ritual that he could be fired. Not by an army, not by a mob, by the sky. Let me show you how that worked, because it is one of the cleverest political contraptions anybody ever built, and it ran for 2,000 years. Start with the title. The Chinese emperor was called the Son of Heaven. Now out west, when a king says he rules by divine right, what he means is, God put me here, so shut up and obey. It is a one-way deal. All authority flows down, no strings attached. God's on the king's side, and that is the end of the conversation. The Chinese version sounds the same on the surface. It is not the same. And the difference is the whole ballgame. The Son of Heaven didn't hold a blank check from the sky. He held a contract. Heaven granted him the right to rule. They called it the mandate of heaven, but only so long as he did the job. And the job wasn't win wars or look mighty. The job was to keep the world in balance. Good order below, good harvests. The people who weren't starving. Do the job, you keep the mandate. Fail the job, and heaven can take it back. That is not divine right. That is a divine performance review. And once a year, the most powerful man alive had to show up and file his report. Here is the picture that ought to stop you. Once a year, at the winter solstice, the longest night, the year at its darkest, the emperor left his palace. No golden throne now, no banners, no army drawn up to make him look big. He came to the temple of heaven, fasted, put aside the trappings, and at dawn he climbed a bare round altar of white stone open to the sky. And there, with the whole apparatus of his power stripped away, the most powerful man on earth knelt, on the cold ground, before the sky, and reported, like a tenant farmer reporting to the man who owns the land. I want you to sit with how strange that is. Every other place I've ever ridden, power spends its whole life trying to look bigger. Taller thrones, higher walls, longer titles. This was a ritual designed to make the emperor feel small, on purpose. Once a year, by law, the boss had to go kneel in the dirt and admit he answered to something above him. A rancher knows the feeling. If he is honest, you can own every acre and every head of stock for 50 miles. Doesn't matter a lick if the sky decides not to rain. There is always something bigger than you. And the smart man builds that humility right into how he runs the place. The Chinese built it into the Constitution. Now look at the building itself. The round hall with the deep blue roof, the one in all the photographs, the hall of prayer for good harvests. And here is the part a man who has worked with his hands has to stop and admire. The whole thing is a calendar made of wood. It is built to mean something, down to the last beam. 4 big central pillars. The 4 seasons, 12 pillars in the next ring. The 12 months, 12 more in the outer ring. The 12-2. Hour blocks the old day was split into. Add the 2 rings, 24. And you've got the 24 solar terms the whole farming year ran on. The roof is round. The base is square. Because the old saying went, heaven is round and the earth is square. They didn't build a temple and decorate it with stars. They took the working machinery of the heavens. The seasons, the months, the turning year a farmer lived and died by, and they built it into the bones of the hall. And they raised the whole thing without a single nail. Wood locked into wood, the joints carrying it all. That is the tell. This wasn't a place to flatter a god. It was a place to stand inside the clockwork of the sky itself and be reminded that you, Son of Heaven, answer to that clock like everybody else. So what happens when the man fails the performance review? This is where the whole thing turns from a pretty ritual into a live wire. Because the mandate of heaven wasn't just a nice idea the emperor told himself. It was a loaded gun pointed at him. And everybody in the empire knew it. Here is the logic, and it is brutal in its simplicity. If the emperor is doing his job, heaven is pleased, and you'll see it. Peace, good harvests, full bellies. But if the floods come year after year, if the crops fail and the famine spread, if bandits rise and the roads aren't safe, then that is not bad luck. That is a signal. Heaven is displeased. The mandate is slipping. And if some rough fellow then raises an army, throws down the dynasty, and takes the throne, well, he couldn't have won unless heaven had already withdrawn its blessing from the old line and handed it to him. The proof that you hold the mandate is that you won. You see what they did there? They built the right of rebellion right into the theory of kingship. A failing emperor wasn't just unlucky. He was losing his license. In plain view, and anybody watching the harvest could read the meter. It kept a strange kind of pressure on the throne that no Western divine right king ever had to live under. And here is the piece that makes the machine actually work instead of just sounding good. How does heaven tell the emperor it is unhappy? It doesn't write him a letter. It speaks through the people. A contented, fed, peaceful people means the mandate is secure. A starving, desperate, rebelling people means it is running out. So, is heaven pleased? And are the common folks all right? Become in practice the same question, which quietly forces the emperor's eyes downward, onto the very people a tyrant would rather ignore. There is an old line they carved into this idea. The people are the foundation of the state, and only when the foundation is solid is the state at peace. That turns the whole pyramid upside down for a second. The peasant in the field, the one with no name in the histories, he is not just a subject to be squeezed. He is the needle on the gauge. When he is fed, the emperor's license is safe. When he is starving, the emperor is in danger, whether he is noticed yet or not. It is not democracy. Nobody's voting, but it rhymes with something a rancher understands in his bones. You can be the hardest man in the territory, but if your stock is starving and your hands are deserting, you are already finished. You just might not have heard the news yet. The Temple of Heaven was built to make sure the emperor heard the news. Once a year, on his knees, in the cold. There is one more piece, and it is the one that tells you these people understood something about power that most rulers never learn. Out on the open altar, the bare round terrace of white stone where the emperor knelt, the builders played a quiet trick. Stand on the round stone dead at the center and speak, and your own voice comes rushing back at you, gathered and amplified by the rings of stone and the marble balustrades around you, loud, close, and strangely alone. Think about what that does to a man, the single most powerful human in the world, kneeling at the center of his empire's holiest ground. And the only voice he hears coming back is his own, thrown back by the sky's own architecture. No courtiers, no flatterers, no army roaring his name, just him and the echo and the cold and the enormous silent sky. You couldn't design a better machine for humbling a king if you tried for 1,000 years. They built all into the acoustics. And that is the genius of the whole place. Every other monument I've ridden past was built to make one man feel bigger. This one, every stone, every pillar, every trick of sound, was built to make the biggest man alive feel the size he actually was against the sky. Once a year, whether he liked it or not. So step back. I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a temple that isn't a temple. A building raised by people who'd figured out the oldest, hardest problem there is. What do you do about the man at the top? And answered it not with a vote and not with a chain, but with a ritual and a contract and a room full of clever stone. They couldn't put the emperor in front of a parliament, so they put him on his knees in front of the sky once a year and wrote it into the bones of the state that his power was a loan, not a gift. A loan the people's own bellies could call in. Did it always work? Of course not. Plenty of emperors knelt in that cold and then went right back to the palace and did as they pleased. A machine's only as good as the men who respect it, but the idea outlived every dynasty that ever housed it. that the right to rule comes with a job attached. And the day you stop doing the job, the sky is taking its blessing back. A foreign president walked through there not long ago and got the short tour. I hope somebody told him the real story, because it is the most interesting thing in that whole blue temple. And it isn't the architecture. It is this. Somebody, 20 centuries before any constitution you've heard of, looked at the most powerful man in the world and said, "You answer to something too, and once a year you will kneel in the dirt and remember it." That is the lesson I rode away with, and I'll hand it to you plain. The measure of a power worth trusting isn't how big it can make itself look. It is whether it ever willingly kneels. Ride with me.